Hi everybody, and welcome to Pixelated Geek presents TriPod, a live weekly video podcast featuring Jonathan Crass,
Hey,
Taylor Tate,
hello.
and me, James Honeycutt. Today, the 24th of February 2015, we'll be broadcasting live on a number of different means via, hopefully via Hangouts on Air, which you can find via the Pixelated Geek Google Plus page, as well as Twitch TV/PixelatedGeek, and the Pixelated Geek YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/PixelatedGeek. If you'd like to comment or respond to any of the topics that we cover today, we can be reached via any of the above mentioned locations, as well as social at PixelatedGeek.com. Okay, very good. So today, what we thought we'd be talking about just real briefly here are a number of sort of very recent pieces of information. When did we find out that GTA 5 wasn't going to be released on time? That was earlier
I
today,
think I sent it to
yesterday?
you this morning.
Okay. So obviously this is not the first or the second or the third time that this happened. JJ, do you wanna kick us off with that one? Just your thoughts on the GTA 5 delay?
I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Um, I thought this window was a little, I don't know, just kind of a placeholder. I mean, the fact that I think what Heist is still not out on for multiplayer.
Those will be
It's not.
releasing in March.
Right.
Yes.
Which I'm surprised, they wouldn't just release that when it's ready on PC.
Sure.
But with Rockstar, I always expect a game to be late. Still waiting on Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah. And the PC port as well.
Yes, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's yeah, I mean that's pretty much. There's not really a whole lot to really cover it, but that's just one of those things. Taylor, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Why is it that Rockstar gets away with doing this? Everything that they do. I mean, this is even Heist. I mean, this is basically like DLC on a game that's been finished now for a long ass time.
Over
It seems like this is the behavior of a studio that has 10 employees versus, I assume, hundreds. And you can say, oh, it's all about quality versus getting things out on time, but why set a deadline if you're going to keep pushing it back over and over again? And fans might be used to that. There's might be like the Rockstar version of Blizzard's soon copyright TM because things never come out. But why do we allow this to happen? And I'm not saying like boycott their games because people aren't going to do that. But just don't like run towards them with open arms. You're like, oh, thank you for setting a date, and maybe sit back and be like, oh yeah, okay. How long until you push this one back? What 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you're gonna push it back and again, and maybe we'll see GTA 5 on PC by spring of 2016.
Yeah, so you made some of the points that I think I was interested in making myself. I think that one of the things that really bothers me about Rockstar, and Blizzard in particular, those two, is that they can functionally do no wrong. And yet they're excellent developers with a great deal of history, but they do have this attitude of sort of complacency, I guess, that comes from knowing that you can do pretty much anything you want to in a game releases, and it sells millions and millions of copies. And obviously GTA 5 did break every sales record imaginable. But it's one of those things where it feels like it's entitled. So heists were announced before GTA 5 came out. They were supposed to ship with the final game, and it has now been a year and 3 months, a year and 4 months, and nothing. And see, that really bothers me more, that getting pushed back, than the PC port does. Because I just assumed that the PC port is going to come out, and it's going to come out whenever it comes out, and I'm not going to pay any attention to numbers or dates that they throw at us, because obviously those numbers and dates mean nothing to them. And the thing about it, I think that bothers me is that it's still gonna sell crazy amounts. So there's no actual punitive action that can be taken on them for being the kind of studio that does this. And I think, just to be clear, the thing that bothers me the most isn't that the game isn't coming out like at a certain time. It's that when they initially said we're going to delay it, they said we're going to delay it like 2 months, and then they said we're going to delay it 2 more months, and then 2 more months. It's one of those things where, like, I don't care if you need to push the game back so that it's finished. What I need you to do is give us a legitimate, like a real date. Give us some time that we can legitimately expect your game to really come out. But yeah, I'm assuming I'm not the only one of the three of us that's just not surprised by this news.
I also
No,
just
I mean, not surprised at all. It's just, at one point, and I shouldn't have been surprised by this. And I guess I kind of thought this last time it got pushed back. I just kind of stopped giving fucks about this. Like you, you're not going to care about numbers on the PC port release date.
Right.
Heists are going to come out whenever. When they do, I will probably play GTA 5 again for a week, maybe, then put it back down and not play it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even think I'm going to buy it on PC. I mean, I played it when it first came out, got it on 360, beat it, and I don't have the urge to play it again,
Yeah.
Like, I even know with you, Taylor, you were debating on waiting to get on PC or the Xbox One, and you ended up getting on the One.
Yeah.
And I think that was actually a smart choice, because you can see with the delay.
Yeah,
but
you can actually play it. You have access to the game, and that is the point.
But I just don't... I don't think it's going to make as big of a splash as I think, because, most people have, by this time, because it came out September 17th, 2013, have already played it. And for me, there's no real draw. Like, oh, I got to replay this. I can't wait to play it on my PC. Oh, it's going to look so much better. To me, that doesn't matter. And, like, same with the multiplayer. I thought I was going to love the multiplayer on the 360. I played it for maybe 45 minutes.
The multiplayer is still broken, by the way.
I know. Yeah, that too. Like, I couldn't play it for a long time either. And my character ended up looking like James, which is really weird.
There's a thing with that. I don't know if you guys ever really played Sims 3 or Sims 4, but there's just something about developers making characters and customization systems that end up looking like me. I'm wondering where the fuck my royalty checks are, because you can't do that. That's not cool. Yeah, no, I don't really feel like there's like a ton to say about it. It's not a surprise and it sucks, but Rockstar, come on, guys, just come on. It can't
I feel like
that long to port
they had to announce the delay to get some news about their game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, well, let's just say we're going to delay it, or like let's let them know we're planning on delaying it again because we need some press.
Right. I automatically snap to the fact that I wonder if this, like most delays, are just a way of moving a game into a quarter in which a company is going to need to post decent sales numbers. Like, whenever a title is pushed back like a ludicrous amount, a very long time, or is somewhat bewilderingly rescheduled, I always wonder if it's the publisher saying, so we know we're going to have a good quarter 1, and we know we're going to have a good quarter 4. This title is going to sell like crazy. Let's push it. But then again, Rockstar should be swimming in money, like literally swimming in money. This is a port of the most profitable game of all time. So, yeah, I don't know. So in similar news about sort of top tier AAA titles, earlier today it was announced that Batman Arkham Knight was going to be receiving an M rating, which I don't actually know how I feel about this yet, so I'm going to field this to you, Taylor. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, it's surprising in that the previous Arkham and Batman games have not been in that kind of that field of having like that M rating. I think it's either the developer making a bold choice and saying, we are going to make it this way because it's the way it needs to be made, and damn the torpedoes, or it is the developer or parent company just kind of accepting the rating from. It's not the what's the ESRB? It's ESRB ratings, right?
Yeah, it's ESRB ratings.
Yeah. So it could be the company just like being accepting their judgment on it, and you knowing that they're in theory going to lose sales, because I honestly can't remember the last M game that came out, because a lot of companies, video game companies, seem to do something that you see movie production companies doing, where they will slide it to a rating, that way they have the largest possible audience.
Right. Okay. So I do actually want to respond to that, because there's some numbers on this that sort of flop up and down, depending on what we're talking about. So one of the reasons why the Halo franchise has had an M rating for a very long time is because the publisher pushed for it, because M-rated shooters sell better than T-rated shooters do. Now that I think makes sense. The genre is shooter, and so as a consequence, it's difficult to render physical violence unto a realistic character with a gun in such a way that doesn't create gory violence. And
Paintball mode, GoldenEye.
Right, and that was probably the last one, and even that, like that, it's just one of those things where it really depends on it. But the thing for me about this happening to Batman is that Batman is a comic book. That is a sort of I know that there are a tremendous number of people like who are adults who are into sort of graphic novels, but like there are like when you ask a little kid, like who's your favorite hero, 9 times out of 10 they're not going to say a policeman or a fireman. They're going to say like a comic book or a cartoon hero. And so you're generally targeting a different demographic. Now that said, this specific Arkham franchise has really played up the adult level of these titles. I think Asylum and City, both for me, like there were moments where I was like, yee. And I don't know if that was just like a weird like visual holdover from the fact that it's using the Unreal Engine, so it basically just looks like Gears of Batman. But this has always been like a little bit adult. Like Harley is a really good example. Like I don't think you could over-sexualize her more if you tried. And so it isn't a huge surprise to me that they moved in this direction, but from the beginning it always kind of has been odd to me that they skewed so close to super adult. Like I mean I would say that if you compare them to say the Christopher Nolan Batman films, the recent ones, like they're grittier and darker and more violent than those films are. And that it doesn't seem like a really like tactically intelligent choice when you're when the average like Batman fan is probably 12. Like I don't know.
I never saw. Most people I knew that played it were people that were of the mature age purchasing range, because most kids I know wouldn't play the Batman games because like, oh, I don't want to play Batman game. They're kiddie games. I'd rather play Call of Duty. Whereas I think the target giving it the M rating, these are going to be people who are already going to buy it, so there's no problem with that.
Right.
And with Call of Duty, what's going to happen? Their parents are going to buy the game, for the younger demographic. But I too have felt, back to your thought on the whole, it being darker. I remember playing Batman Arkham Asylum for the first time, and in the first 15 minutes, I was like, this is pretty heavy for a teen. Like, I'm amazed that they got away with it. Yeah. And I feel like maybe that's what they thought. Like, well, we're Batman, we should tone it down. But I think now that they're like, you know what, we want to tell the story we want to. It's going to be gritty. And I think they even stated that it's not about violence and gore, it's the subject matter. Okay. And the content. So, well, yeah, because I don't think this is Batman with bloody chunks. This is going to be just a heavier toned Batman, which is not good for kids. Yeah. Like The Killing Joke. Would you ever let a kid read The Killing Joke?
Absolutely not. Under no circumstances. And that's kind of what I am hoping that they are trying to do. Like I do genuinely hope that what they're trying to do is present more adult subject matter. But I do have a sneaking suspicion that it has to do just a little bit with the Batmobile, because there are different kinds of violence that the ESRB can, like Electronic Safety Ratings Board can sort of hone in on and establish as violent. And so, pause. Batman has like the one rule, which is that he doesn't kill things, and then his Batmobile has missile launchers and like cannons and like. So I don't know if it's going to be something playing in with that. Like they might not allow you to kill people because of Batman's rule, but I don't know. I'm worried that it's going to be for a really stupid reason. Like showing us Harley's boobs or something. Like don't do that. Make that not be the case, because that's not what you want to do.
Don't give the fans what they want.
Right.
Don't.
Well, I don't know. I think that would be.
I mean, I think it'd be tasteless.
Absolutely.
Completely tasteless.
And in
I don't want to see them. Like I don't need to. I'm
just
I can
worried
function.
that it's something like that. It's something
Yeah.
like being able to shred civilians with the cannons, or like stupid unnecessary nudity or something like that. As long as it's adult content, good to go. Good to go.
I mean, if they let Batman say an F-bomb, that'd be fine.
Yeah, and that actually wouldn't be super out of keeping for the universe. So I don't know. Taylor, do you have any final thoughts on that one?
No.
No, you don't. Okay, that was my least.
Taylor's like Team Superman.
Camera switch.
No, I'm Team Batman over Team Superman, but
Right.
you guys said it well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, let's be real. Superman's a Boy Scout, and Batman's a real person, and that's the only thing that's really interesting there. So we talked about this a little bit last week, and mostly how it came up was that this is not really a good time of year for AAA releases. They rarely come out this time of year, and as a consequence, there's not really a ton to play. So we go looking for the little stuff. But I started thinking about it recently, because of a conversation that the three of us were having. It's something that I think comes up often for people who are in the social situation we are. Like, what are you looking forward to? What games do you really want to play? I started thinking about that. And I'm not really excited about any AAA top tier releases this year. And when that occurred to me, I started looking at my Steam library, like the last 15 games I bought. And I'm not sure if it's that the early part of the year isn't a good time for AAA releases, or if that's not what's exciting about the market anymore. Like I'm personally amazingly excited about Star Citizen. That's the game that I'm most excited about in the next 5 years. And
When it eventually comes out in 5 years.
right, well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's like what I like about it is that it's releasing small units slowly over time. And I don't have to worry about a massive publishing house destroying the idea of my favorite franchise. And I like that because there's nothing to blame, right? So all of that was rolling around together in my head. I don't think I get excited about big games anymore. And good example here, GTA 5 PC. I don't care that it's not coming out on time. I didn't really care when it came out. I bought it and I played it. But like the last big AAA title that I bought was probably Call of Duty, which I had some fun with but didn't really care about. And so that's kind of what I wanted to ask you guys about is it the end of the era for the AAA massive shrunk wrap brick and mortar video games? Is that not a thing? Like, am I the only one that feels like those don't matter as much anymore? Who wants to take this?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go to town.
So when I think of large AAA titles that I am excited for this year, Dreadnought is on there. Hopefully, it comes out this year, and I guess it looks like a larger AAA, but I don't off the top of my head, I can't recall larger companies attached to it. So it might not be.
It's
But
Jaeger
the
is the
Division,
development studio. Jaeger is the company that did
Spec
oh,
Ops.
thank you. Thank you.
Spec Ops the line.
Yeah. So, and they got dumped from their publisher and they had to scramble around to try and find a bigger one. Okay, that was just feeding in that information. Continue with your point.
but one that I do know is AAA, and I'm excited for, is the Division. And I'm
Okay.
purposely kind of keeping my head in the sand about it because at this point it's mostly just baseless speculation and people saying, I want XYZ, and there's there's no facts to point to and be like, oh yeah, I know X will be there, Y won't be, and it's all just like hopes and wishes right now. But it is a game that I'm very excited for and is a AAA title. I would say that the number of AAA titles I'm excited for this year is fewer. So I wouldn't say it's the death of larger, as you say, shrunk wrap games, the massive titles you'll see commercials for on ESPN in the middle of the afternoon. It's certainly not the end of that because they do still make buku money for those companies. Not Grand Theft Auto. Call of Duty will always be one of those, and it will always be the exact same game because at this point they can just churn that out and make loads of money. So I don't think it's the end of it. I think that instead of looking at it in the death of one thing, I would phrase it and frame it in the way that we are seeing a stronger indie and medium-sized developer scene now more than ever because perhaps the increased connectivity of social media, funding websites like Kickstarter, where they now have more opportunities to actually create their titles and release them the way they want to. So maybe it's more of a balancing than a completely dropping off of one side.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you definitely make some strong points there. JJ, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you checked my Steam list to see what would be a AAA title, and that's on there that I even care about. And honestly, Witcher is the only one. And I've never even counted Witcher as a big AAA title.
It's
in the beginning, like with 2, because I remember no one really knew about the franchise, and 2 was popular, but I still don't look at The Witcher as being this huge must-have that people know about.
That's one of the few cases of a developer that is, for all intents and purposes, its own publisher. So as a consequence, they're able to kind of avoid some of the pitfalls that larger publishers fall into. But I think it's interesting that you mentioned The Witcher because there are a few titles in particular that kind of feel that way. Most recently, Shadows of Mordor. That was a WB title, and no, WB isn't huge, but they're really not very big in terms of the gaming world. They're not one of the big 3, and they pretty much have Batman and Lord of the Rings, and that's pretty much the extent of what. And yeah, those are huge, but
and Lego.
Well, and yeah, but hold on. So when you have like a company that still is relatively an upstart within the industry, no matter how financially successful they are, there's this little span of time for the first 3 or 4 years where they still act like what they used to be, even though they're making a lot of money now. And I think CD Projekt Red is an excellent example of that. Here's hoping they never do anything else. Like, just don't make any other games. Just keep.
Well, they get that Cyberpunk game.
Yeah, they do have that Cyberpunk game.
That's a good point. Which got pushed back, and then I don't want to say tentatively canceled, but nobody's heard anything about it in a while. Like just a lot of concept art.
But yeah, I can't think of anything. Like the next thing I'm going to buy is going to be possibly the Homeworld Remastered collection, and that's not even a AAA. I mean that's a game that's 11 years old, 10 years old.
Right.
But yeah, it's the little studios. I mean, it's my list of 109 games are mainly all small, like little indie things.
Right. Well, I'm actually looking at most of the stuff that I have installed now, and like there are a few like major franchises that I guess I still get really excited about. But I think what it is that development has become something that anybody can do. As long as you can find the money somehow. If you have 2 or 3 friends that want to make a game, they can do that. And they can publish it essentially for free on the internet if they want to go DRM free. But there are a lot of different digital distribution methods that reduce the amount of like input that is required into that sort of thing. And so what's happening is the developers that are less willing to take risks, that are willing to make games that are a little bit safer, that are a little bit more conventional, end up working at larger development studios. And even if they want to make choices that are a little bit more dangerous, that is sacrificed for marketability. And so what I think it is personally is that the people who want to make the interesting stuff, the different stuff, the stuff that isn't something that could be sanitized for mass consumption and packed out to the lowest common denominator, are these smaller studios that are doing digital distribution, and so we're getting the interesting stuff from them. I think Besiege is a really good example of that. I don't see a company like EA or Activision saying, yeah, you should what you should do? You should make a really simple little thing where you just build siege engines. That's your whole game. Go to town, do that. Most of the stuff that I play on Xbox Live and have over the last 8 years has been like the digital releases. Like, I think very fondly of games like Limbo and Scott Pilgrim and that sort of stuff. That wasn't the big tier. So I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna buy the next Battlefield, and Battlefront is a top tier AAA game, and that's pretty much the kryptonite to my argument is Battlefront.
That's kryptonite to all of our arguments.
It's pretty much kryptonite to everything in the industry. Like, I'll be very interested to see sales statistics at the end of this year, just to see how many of the top 10 slots are occupied by Battlefront on different consoles, because it will be several of the 10 of them. But yeah, so I'm not so much arguing that the era of the AAA developer is over, because it's not, because that's where the money is. You're absolutely right about that. And it will continue to be that way. But my interest in that kind of title has completely waned. Like, I'm just not excited about much of anything that is a AAA title. Do you guys have any further thoughts on that?
Oh, I think with the whole taking risk thing, this kind of reminded me. I was thinking about, like, I saw a picture. It was Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino, and Robert Rodriguez.
Okay.
And it was just reminded me of, like, these were three guys that decided to do what they wanted to do, and they were able to become successful and primarily doing what they wanted to do on their own.
Yeah.
Eventually, becoming bigger. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of indie developers. They're choosing to do what they want to do, and now, like, the team who did Limbo has a new game coming out, which I'm blanking on the name. But that's getting a big release. The guys from Team, who did Super Meat Boy, anything they're going to do, people will buy.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think indie developers are kind of becoming what, the indie filmmakers used to be. This kind of, not really rock stars, but no matter what, they're going to sell their product.
Stars, because
kind of rock stars. And they will sell.
Is an indie title. And
Yeah.
Minecraft, like, became, without question, I actually, earlier today, during this podcast, I think I actually phrased something completely incorrectly, in which I said that Grand Theft Auto was the most profitable game ever released. It isn't. It's sold, it's broken all the sales records, but the actual development cost was insanely high, whereas Minecraft has broken a similar number of sales records and was made by 7 people in one studio. So, like,
there are Minecraft books. Like, I just want to point that out. I learned that this week. There are Minecraft books.
I would like to read that just to see what it's. And then he hit the brick with his pickaxe, and then he hit it again, and then he picked up the dirt block and like, what do you? It's important to my life to find that out. JJ, the developer of Limbo is Playdead.
Yeah.
Their next title is Inside.
Yes, and I know, because I think Microsoft, I don't know if they have exclusive rights, but they're really promoting that one.
Right.
And the focus, too, that, Xbox and Sony are pushing indie developers. Saying that we've got the indie stuff on our platforms, which would have been unheard of, over 10 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? The Incredible Tale of Steve is what it's called. I just threw it in the G-chat window, and a legendary Minecraft adventure story of Steve, the masterpiece for all Minecraft fans.
Oh, okay.
No one's reviewed it yet.
I'm upset.
So
I'm upset by looking at it.
That should be someone's homework. One of us should probably buy that.
You can take that one.
Yeah, nose goes on that. No way.
No, actually, I think I beat you on that one, JJ. But yeah, so there you go. I learned something incredibly new today. Thank you very much, Taylor. I'm not sure how I would have continued functioning without that level of edification. That's amazing.
The more you know.
Yeah, and on that bombshell, so that wraps things up for us today. And what is today again? Today is the 24th of February, 2015. Thanks very much for checking this out, watching the video, or catching the live stream. We would really appreciate it if you guys would do us a favor, help us out a little bit. Just go ahead and subscribe to youtube.com/pixelatedgeek or Twitch TV/pixelatedgeek, which is the easiest way to see this. We'll be on iTunes, not next week, but shortly after next week. We just set up the FTP for that, so we will be live on iTunes in about a week and a half here. You can subscribe to us just as an audio podcast. But yeah, so for Jonathan Crass, for Taylor Tate, I am James Honeycutt, and we are wishing you a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for tuning in. Take care, guys.